Black Panther, directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Martin Freeman, Daniel Kaluuya, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Sterling K. Brown, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and Andy Serkis. Another entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, originally pushed to be developed much earlier on by Kevin Feige along with Captain Marvel around 2012. So all the way around the time of the first Avengers. But the then president of Marvel Studios, Ike Perlmutter, famously an old and out of touch guy, blocked both movies, claiming that they would never make any money and that nobody would ever like to play with toys of a black or a female superhero. Well, those claims have clearly not aged very well. Black Panther ended up making over $1.3 billion at the box office and entered the zeitgeist, becoming a cultural phenomenon, particularly among black audiences and particularly in the US. The movie was hailed as an amazing milestone for cinema, and regardless of the arguments made about its overall merit and quality, you have to admit the facts. It was the first Hollywood movie with an almost completely black cast, black crew, and black talent behind the camera. And it was indeed wildly popular upon its release. It also happened to win 3 Oscars: Best Score, Best Costume Design, and Production Design, and was nominated for 4 more: Best Picture, Best Song, Sound Editing, and Sound Mixing. The story follows the character of T'Challa, who was introduced in Captain America Civil War and starts just a week after those events. T'Challa comes back to Wakanda to take up the mantle of king after his murdered father. But as he's struggling with the new responsibilities and the pressure of expectations from his subjects and advisors and friends, there will be challengers to the throne, one of which, nicknamed Killmonger, is somehow connected to Wakanda's past and the sins of its fathers. So, speaking about the actual reception of the film, I always thought that it was not as great as many people painted it out to be. I recognize its cultural significance, especially for America, but if you take the race aspect out of the equation, I think it's just an alright film that does some things fantastically while failing to deliver on some others. I will start with the good stuff. I think that the production design, music, and costumes were all rightly rewarded at the Oscars because all 3 are just amazing. They pull heavily from various cultures and traditions of Africa, creating this wonderfully colorful and rich society and location in Wakanda. The cinematography, for the most part, is also great, with at least several scenes etched hard into my memory. The waterfall challenge, the plant burning scene, the ancestral plane experience, the upside down shot of Killmonger walking into the throne room. I mean, these are the most notable examples. I also think that the side characters are some of the best in Marvel. The movie has a very wide cast of people who are not just there for 1 second, they all play significant roles in the story, and each of them is unique, memorable, and well performed. My personal favorite probably being Okoye, who is just both fantastic in terms of writing and performance by the wonderful Danai Gurira. And when it comes to the script, it touches on some difficult themes: racism, of course, but also the disenfranchisement of poor black communities in America, the responsibility of black people to look out for one another, the heavy duties of rulers and their failures, which have to be fixed by new generations. It's all there, but I do think that at times the writing does not carry the weight of those subjects. Overall, also the villain ends up being fairly dumb in terms of the plan that they're trying to execute. And despite much praise, I always found Michael B. Jordan to be a bit one note, with especially his line delivery being almost always the same. And I think that bits of dialogue, particularly for him, are a little bit on the nose as well. Then there's the main character, T'Challa, which for me has always been a bit of an issue. I deliberately said before that the side characters are so great because for me they completely overshadow the protagonist in this film. I always found T'Challa to be an unbelievably good character back in Civil War, where he had a very strong arc as well. But now that that arc is finished, I feel that the writers struggled to write the film around him in a compelling way, other than, he's unsure how much he wants to change Wakanda going forward, and then he finds out some of his father's past mistakes, and then this helps him decide that he does in fact want to change a lot. It's just not as engaging for me on a personal level as his previous, revenge arc has been. even though Chadwick has definitely done an admirable job of bringing the character to life and giving it enough gravity. And then the main problem for me is that as much as the film wanted to explore all those heavier themes and be this sort of cultural milestone, in the final act, it still manages to devolve into a big CG superhero fight, which at this point is was getting a bit boring, honestly, especially as once again in the introduction movie, the hero fights a mirror version of themselves, down to a similar looking suit with the same powers and just a different color scheme, which in this case is doubly frustrating because those suits are literally plot armor. They're so powerful in this film that anytime a character wears them, there are almost no stakes in the fight because we know that they basically cannot be hurt. There's no weight to the fight, especially as they rely very heavily on CG, which I have to say in the finale is well below the usual Marvel quality. Apparently, the same CG studio was already working on finishing some of the post production for Infinity War, which was a much more important movie for Marvel. So a lot of the resources were moved there. So yeah, I do have a whole set of problems with the film, but just to be clear, I still think it's pretty decent and enjoyable. It has great energy thanks to all the music and costumes and all these supporting characters. Wakanda in general is a location that I would like to spend more time in, explore it. So I think it's fine to praise the movie for the cultural impact it had, but I think that giving it a complete pass on that alone would just be pandering. So let's treat it fairly and recognize the faults that it has, so that they can hopefully be corrected in the sequel, which I have no idea how they're going to handle considering the untimely death of Chadwick Boseman just last year, who tragically passed away way too soon.